Hello. Come in. Don't be afraid. The story we have for you today, entitled The Mystery of the Pale Man on the Second Floor, is just a story. A tale that has been made up by our producer Bill Russo for short story theater. The story of the Pale Man is no more real than that fake moon landing made by the United States in 1969. Yes, that was one small step for mankind, in a studio on the lot of Universal Pictures. Fear not, our tale today is a bit more realistic than the moon landing.
And it begins now.
One winter just before the turn of the century, I was driving along the Cape Cod highway, heading towards the town of Harwich. The snow began coming down just as I crossed over the Bourne Bridge. The storm quickly became intense, and the windswept snow made the driving very hazardous.
I lost control of the car and crashed it into a tree just before exit 9A at the town of Dennis.
The ambulance and the rescue people came. They dragged me out of the car and took me to the Cape Cod Hospital in Hyannis. I spent a week there with a broken leg, a broken arm, and various internal injuries. After I was released, I rented a room in the town of Yarmouth, at one of the many nearly vacant and pretty run-down hotels on Route 28. Since it was the off-season, the rates were very low, which was fortunate because the doctors said I would have to remain there for at least a month. I can get around a little bit. I'm on the second floor, and the stairs are wide with a good handrail, so I can easily get to the hotel lobby where they have soda and snack machines. Most days the only food I have comes from those machines. I'm in room 201, the first room in the hallway, with windows overlooking Route 28. It's the off-season now, and the hotel is almost deserted. It will stay that way until springtime, when the tourists start coming back to Cape Cod. I have not yet met the man in number 212, the last room, at the far end of the hall. I don't even know his name. He does not use the lobby. On the 3 occasions when we passed each other by, we did not speak, although we nodded to each other. I would like to have someone to talk to. It is lonesome in this shabby place. With the exception of an old lady down the hall, the only permanent guests are the man in number 212 and myself. However, I should not complain, for this utter quiet is precisely what the doctor prescribed. I wonder if the man in 212 has also come here to recuperate from an illness or an accident. He is so very pale. Yet I cannot believe that he is sick, for his paleness is not of a sickly cast, but rather like carved ivory. He walks briskly and displays no limp like I do. He is tall and straight. He walks like an athlete. But he is as pale white as the bathroom toilet bowl. I don't think he has a car. I know that he checked in only a short time after my arrival. I had briefly rested in my room and was walking down the stairs when I encountered him going up the stairs with his bag.
I thought to myself that it was odd that, with so many vacant rooms in the hotel, he picked number 212 at the extreme rear. The building is a long, narrow affair 3 stories high. The hallway is long and drab, and the walls are coated with old-fashioned wallpaper that gives off a musty, unpleasant smell. The feeble electric bulbs that light it shine dimly as from a tomb. There's no television in my room. Not even a radio. The quiet and the lack of people gets on my nerves. I need to talk to someone. I've got to start a conversation with the guy in 212.
I have been here a week now, and if there is a friendly soul in this empty little town, he has escaped my notice. Although the counter people at the fast food places take my money readily enough, they studiously avoid even the most casual conversation. I get the feeling that Cape Cod people won't talk to you unless your ancestors came to the island 100 years ago. Despite the coolness of my reception, I have been frequently venturing out along Route 28. Most of the businesses are closed and won't reopen until summer when the tourists come back. I still have not talked to the pale man, but I noticed that he moved from 212 to 210. He's 2 rooms closer to the street. I noticed the change yesterday when I saw him coming out of his new room. We nodded again, but I still did not speak to him. That's normal for me. I'm not an outgoing person. But I do want someone to talk to. He must know that I want to talk, yet the vibes he gives off seem to forbid conversation. And the hotel desk clerk is the same. His surly manner cuts off all attempts at conversation. I wonder where the pale man gets his food. I've stopped using the snack machines for my meals, and I have begun eating at the several nearby restaurants and fast food joints like McDonald's. At each place, I have asked about the man in 210. No one at any restaurant remembered his having been there. Hey, get this. The pale man must be difficult to please, for he has again changed his room. He is in 209 now. I am baffled by his conduct. If he wants to be more conveniently situated in the hotel, why doesn't he move directly to room 202, which is the nearest available room to the front? Perhaps I can make his inability to locate himself permanently an excuse for starting a conversation. Hey! He has done it again. He is now occupying number 209. I am intrigued by his little game. I waste hours trying to figure it out. What possible motive could he have? He must be getting on the hotel people's nerves. I wonder what our chambermaid thinks of having to prepare 4 rooms for a single guest. I am tremendously interested in the pale man's next move. He started out in 212 and now he is in 209, but he's going to have to skip a room or remain where he is, for a permanent guest, a very old lady, occupies number 208. She has not budged from her room since I have been here, and I imagine that she does not intend to. I wonder what the pale man will do. I am waiting for his next move with the nervous excitement of a gambleaholic at the horse track on the eve of a big race. Why am I so interested? Well, I have nothing else to do. It is a diversion. The only other thing I have to do is wait for my leg and my arm to finish healing, and I'm slogging around on a pair of crutches.
Well, I have news. The mysterious guest was not forced to remain where he was, nor did he have to skip a room. The old lady in number 208 simplified matters by conveniently dying. No one knows the cause of her death, but it is generally attributed to old age. She was buried this morning. I was among the curious few who attended her funeral. When I returned home from the mortuary, I was in time to see the pale man leaving her room. Already he has moved in to room 208. He smiled at me when I saw him. I think it meant something. He acted as if there were between us some secret that I failed to appreciate. But then, perhaps his smile was meaningless after all, and only ambiguous by chance. He's done it again. He has moved into room 207. I am not the least surprised. I would have been astonished if he had not made his scheduled move. I have almost given up trying to understand his eccentric conduct. I do not know a single thing more about him than I knew the day he arrived. I wonder where he came from. There is something indefinably strange about his manner. I am curious to hear his voice. If only I could somehow get him into conversation. I wish that I was like some TV personality who can address himself to the most distinguished celebrity without batting an eye. I've never been comfortable talking to people, and I never start conversations.
I am worried. This morning I awoke to find myself lying on the floor. I was fully clothed. I must have been exhausted and fallen there after I came back from Seafood Sam's on Route 28 last night. I wonder if my condition is more serious than I thought. Until now, I have been inclined to discount the fears of those who have made a sad face about me. For the first time, I recall the prolonged handshake of the doctor when he said goodbye as I left the hospital. It was as if he never expected to see me alive again. But I'm not that sick. Nevertheless, I must be more careful. Thank heaven I have no dependents to worry about. I don't even have a wife, for I was never willing to exchange the loneliness of a bachelor for the loneliness of a husband. I can say in all sincerity that the prospect of death does not frighten me. Speculation about life beyond the grave has always bored me. Whatever it is, or is not, I'll try to get along. There's either something after life, or there is not. It's a 50-50 proposition.
I've been so preoccupied about the sudden turn of my own affairs that I've neglected to make note of a most extraordinary incident. The pale man has done an astounding thing. He has skipped 3 rooms. He has now moved all the way to 203. Now he is just 2 rooms away from me. I have confined myself to my bed during the last few days. Before I took to bed, I dragged up a case of water and enough dry food for a couple weeks. I even called the local doctor, whom I suspect to be a quack. He looked me over with professional indifference and told me not to leave my room. For some reason, he does not want me to climb stairs. For this bit of information, he received $40 in cash, which I pulled out of my coat pocket. I felt like the $40 was taken by a pickpocket instead of me, myself.
The sawbones had not been gone very long when I was visited by the room clerk. He suggested that I use the facilities of the hospital in Hyannis. It was so modern and all that. With more firmness than I have been able to muster in a long time, I told him I intend to remain where I am. Frowning sullenly, he stiffly left the room. The doctor must have paused long enough downstairs to tell him some kind of a story. It is obvious that the clerk is afraid I shall die in his best room. The pale man is up to his old tricks. Last night, when I tottered down the hall, the door of 202 was ajar. Without thinking, I looked inside. The pale man sat in a rocking chair, idly smoking a cigarette. He looked up into my eyes and smiled that peculiar, ambiguous smile that has so deeply puzzled me. I moved on down the corridor, not so much mystified as annoyed. The whole mystery of the man's conduct is beginning to irk me. I feel that I shall never talk with the pale man. But, at least, I am going to learn his identity. Tomorrow I will make the room clerk tell me who he is. I know now! I know the identity of the pale man, and I know the meaning of his smile. Early this afternoon, I summoned the room clerk to my bedside. Please tell me, I asked abruptly, who is the man in number 202? The clerk stared wearily and uncomprehendingly. He said nothing for several seconds, maybe a full minute. I stared at him, my brain trying to force him to speak. And finally he said,
"You must be mistaken, sir. That room is unoccupied.
Oh, but it is I myself saw the man there only 2 nights ago. He is a tall man with dark eyes and hair. He is unusually pale. He checked in the day that I arrived.
But I assure you there is no such person in the hotel. As for his checking in when you did, you were the only guest we registered that day.
What? I've seen him 20 times. First, he had room 212 at the end of the corridor. Then he kept moving toward the front. Now he's next door in number 202.
The room clerk threw up his hands. "You're crazy," he exclaimed, and I saw that he meant what he said. I shut up at once and went back to my room. After a while, I heard him rattling the knob of the pale man's door. There is no doubt that he believes the room to be empty. Now I understand the events of the past few weeks. I now comprehend the significance of the death in 207. I even feel partly responsible for the old lady's passing.
It was my fault. After all, I brought the pale man with me. But it was not I who fixed his path. Why he chose to approach me room after room through the length of this dreary hotel. Why his path crossed the threshold of the old woman, I cannot explain. I suppose I should have guessed his identity when he skipped the 3 rooms on the night I fell unconscious on the floor. In a single night of triumph he advanced until he was almost to my door. He will be coming very soon to inhabit this room. That is his ultimate goal. He's in 202, just 1 door away from my room. When he comes, I will return his smile of grim recognition. Meanwhile, I have only to wait. My door is locked. But I know that a locked door will not stop the pale man. And so closes The Pale Man on the Second Floor on Bill Russo's Short Story Theater. Our home base is the podcast host site, Spreaker, like speaker with the letter R after the P. We are also on all podcast sites, in addition to YouTube. Hit the like button and subscribe, and most importantly, come back again soon, won't you?